guys, and welcome back to another video here with Angel B Designs. If you are new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. What I'm gonna do today is an updated video. So I do have a video similar to this on my channel, but it's about a year old and I've gotten a ton of new subscribers since I made that video. So I just kind of wanted to come on here and do an updated sublimation for beginners tutorial where I am literally going over everything that you need to get started with sublimation. This is probably the #1 question that I get across all platforms, in my Facebook group, on my TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, everything. Is the #1 question is, what's the best, anything to do with sublimation? What's the best paper? What's the best ink? What's the best printer? Where can I get the best blanks from? Like, sublimation questions is literally all I get all of the time. So I wanted to go ahead and do an updated tutorial. Basically, I'm not going to be showing you any sublimation blanks or like the actual process of sublimating today, because I have a ton of videos on my channel. So definitely check those out. But today I am literally just going to be answering all of the frequently asked questions, telling you what I use, what I have used before, and my opinions on them. Literally everything that you need to get started with sublimation. So let's just jump right into it. The very first thing that you need in order to start sublimation is a printer. When it comes to printers, one of the biggest questions I get asked, can I just use regular ink, or can I just use a regular printer? Sublimation is the process of a special ink. It's different from regular ink, like the ink that comes with your, if you go purchase a printer, the ink that comes with it. That's regular ink, okay? Sublimation ink, the process of it adhering to the fabric is a different process. It kind of turns into a gas and it adheres to the white fabric and things like that. So you cannot sublimate with a regular printer unless you've converted it. You cannot sublimate with regular, well, I think some people do sublimate with copy paper. For the best results, I wouldn't use copy paper, but you can. So you gotta have all of the sublimation supplies. The #1 thing you gotta have is a sublimation printer. Now, there are printers out there that are specifically made for sublimation, like the Sawgrasses. Those are pretty expensive, so if you have the money for a Sawgrass, then I would say definitely go for a Sawgrass. But if you don't, and you're looking to get a regular printer, you have to convert it. And what I mean by convert it is you take that printer, the regular printer. So for instance, I have the Epson I used to have the Epson 7720. Now I have the Epson 8500. And both of those I converted. So those are regular printers. When you go to the store, when I purchased it, it came with regular ink. Okay? This is regular Epson ink. This is the ink that it came with. I did not put this in my machine because I can't sublimate with this. So what I did is I took sublimation ink. I use Hippo, however you say it. It's on Amazon. This is the ink that I use. So basically I took this ink and I put it in my printer instead of the regular ink. With this Epson 8500, it's an eco tank. With the eco tanks, it's super simple. All you have to do is put the ink inside the tank and you're good to go. With the 7720, like I had a cartridge, it's a little bit more of a tedious process. You got to take the cartridges out. You got to use the syringe. You got to make sure you don't get any air bubbles. So my preference is definitely an eco tank. If you can find an eco tank printer that you can convert, I would definitely say go eco tank. It's just easier. It's sleeker. It's easier to work with than the cartridges are. So I would definitely say go eco tank if you can. But yes, you have to have a printer, either a Sawgrass or a sublimation printer already, or you have to find one that's compatible with sublimation ink and you can convert it. Okay, so you have to have a sublimation printer. That's key. That's #1. You have to have sublimation ink. Those two things are non-negotiable. Okay, paper is somewhat negotiable. Okay, blanks are somewhat negotiable. The two things that are non-negotiable is you have to have a printer that's compatible with sublimation, and you have to use sublimation ink. Non-negotiable. You have to. No, you can't sublimate with regular ink. No, you can't sublimate with a non-converted printer. Period. Okay, so those two things are non-negotiable. You got to have a printer that is compatible with conversion, and you have to have sublimation ink. Now, everything else is negotiable. You can find loopholes and ways around it. Those two things you cannot. Okay, so you have to have ink and you have to have the printer. This is the ink that I use. That's the very next thing I'll talk about. You know, like I said, it is a special ink. It's not like the regular ink. This is the one that I use currently. I've been using them for about a year now. I will link everything. My printer, I know my printer is sold out right now. So but I'll still put it down, the name of it, I'll put it down in the description box. And then I'll link my ink, my paper, where I get my blanks, the website to my blanks, all of that. I'll link all of that down below for you guys. Okay? But this is the ink that I use. Very good ink. If you see me sublimate anything on my channel previously, I always show you my colors and how vibrant they are and things like that. Prior to using this ink, I did use the Ink X Pro ink. That is also a good ink. I found this one to be cheaper and the results were the same. So that's why I switched to using this ink. But they're both very, very good inks. Those are the two that I have used. I get so many questions about Cosmos ink. I've never used Cosmos ink. I don't know. To be quite honest, to be perfectly honest, you can order ink from Alibaba yourself. It's all the same ink. Everybody just packages it up and then sells it as a different brand. But you could go on Alibaba and you can buy sublimation ink if you wanted to, really. And it's the same ink. So you got to have sublimation ink, and it has to go into your sublimation printer or your regular printer that you're converting to sublimation. Okay, so those two things are non-negotiable. You have to have them. You have to use them, point blank, period. Now, everything else I'm going to talk about, like I said, is negotiable. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the paper. Now, for me, using sublimation paper is not negotiable. I like my colors to be vibrant. I like them to be popping. I like them to be lively. So I use sublimation paper. There are people who use copy paper and they say it works just fine. So I guess it's your preference. It's your preference, really. But for me, I use sublimation paper. And this is the paper that I use. It's a sublimation paper. It's the only paper I have ever used. I've never tried any other brand. I have been sublimating for over 2 years now, and about 2 years now, and I have never purchased any other paper. I've been sent some paper to try out. I haven't gotten around to it because I bought so much of this sublimation paper like during the pandemic, when it was like in 2020, when it was really hard to get supplies. When I found sublimation paper that wasn't sold out, I bought as much as I could. So I mean, I have so much sublimation paper, it's ridiculous. So yeah, sublimation, you gotta have, well, I say you gotta have sublimation paper. If you would like to try the copy paper method, it's totally your preference. It's up to you. But I say get sublimation paper. This is what I use. And again, I will link this down below as well. All right, and then the last thing is you need some type of heat. You have to adhere the ink to whatever your blank is. So if you're using a shirt, you can do a easy press, or you can do a heat press. One of the biggest frequently asked questions that I get all of the time is, can you use an easy press with sublimation? As long as your easy press goes up to 400 degrees, then yes. I think the first easy press didn't go up to 400 degrees. So if you have the older one, then I don't think it goes up to 400 degrees. But I have the second one, the Martha Stewart collection, and mine goes up to 400 degrees. So as long as you have an easy press that goes up to 400 degrees, then yes, you can use it. You can use the easy press, the mug press. You can use The mini press, I'm sure the mini press would take longer. You can use it. I wouldn't suggest it. I also wouldn't suggest like a home iron either, just because I just don't think it gets hot enough. And then of course the heat press. So you have to have some type of heating mechanism to adhere the ink to whatever your blank is. Okay, for tumblers, I use a convection oven. For mugs, I use the mug press. For shirts and things like that, I use the heat press. I do use my easy press if the blank is small. I'll use the easy press. But yeah, you just need some kind of heating mechanism to get the ink to adhere to your blank. Okay. All right, so those are the four main tools that you need: heat press or heating mechanism, some kind of paper, ink, and a printer. That's gonna get you started. Okay, that's the big buck like equipment that's gonna cost you the most, the most money. So a couple of additional tools that you'll need just to help you along in the process is gonna be heat tape. Heat tape, I mean, it depends on how big your image is on whether you can or cannot use it. If my image is smaller or more complex, I'll use heat tape, because the heat tape will help you to not get ghosting on your image or on your shirt or your blank or whatever. If I'm doing a mug or a tumbler, I have to use heat tape. If I'm doing a t-shirt, if the image is big enough, I won't use heat tape, but if it's smaller, I will, because I don't want it to move or shift. I would definitely say invest in some heat tape. You'll quickly find out when you start to get ghosting how important heat tape is, so I would definitely invest in it. I do get mine off of Amazon. Again, I'll link it down below. You definitely need, for shirts and things, well, I would say for any blank, a lint roller. For whatever reason, at 400 degrees, when you heat up lint at 400 degrees, it turns this ugly blue color, like on a t-shirt. If you forget to lint roll your shirt, as soon as you open up your heat press, you're going to instantly realize you messed up. It was in that moment you realized you messed up, because the lint turns blue. It's like it burns, but it turns blue. So definitely get a lint roller, especially if you're doing shirts. Because you don't want the little, and you can see them clear as day. They're like little blue specks, like little blue confetti all over the shirt. So definitely make sure you get a lint roller. And then some type of paper, butcher paper, Teflon sheet. I wouldn't suggest a Teflon sheet. I would suggest butcher paper works for me the best. Because sometimes on some paper, the ink will transfer on the, like from the back onto, it could get on your, like if you're using a heat press, your top plate, or you just want to cover it so that there's no ink transfer to your plate or to anything else. So you just want to protect your plate to get some longevity out of your heat press, if that's what you're using, or if you're using an easy press. You just don't want, because when the heat reheats up, like let's say you turn your heat press off and you got some ink on your plate and you don't clean it off, or you forget that it was there, it didn't know that it was there, realize it was there. When you heat that press back up, you're heating that ink back up. So if you go to press something else, you could possibly transfer that ink to your new blank. So you want to use some type of paper to protect your plate from getting any ink transfer. I use butcher paper. You can use a Teflon sheet. I wouldn't use a Teflon sheet just because I use my Teflon sheet over and over and over and over. If I get ink on it, I can't use it over and over and over and over. So I don't use my Teflon sheet for sublimation. I use butcher paper for sublimation, and then I use my Teflon sheet for other things, like vinyl or something like that. I have butcher paper on a big roll. I just buy a big roll of it. It's really thick. I'll link that down below. And then it also comes, I bought a like holder for it to come on, so you just pull it and rip. Pull it and rip. It's really easy. Okay, so I'll link all that down below. All right, and then now I'm going to move on to the frequently asked questions that I always get when it comes to sublimation. The first one is, what time and temp did you use? Universal time and temperature is 400 degrees for 1 minute. That's for t-shirts, things like that. The universal time for like mugs is like Depends on which one you're using. For the mug press, it's like 5 minutes. If you're using a convection oven, it's like maybe 7, maybe 8 minutes. It really just depends on what method of heat you're using. So if you're using a convection oven, the time might be a little longer. If you're using a mug press, because the mug press creates a good amount of pressure on that, the time could be lower. And it also depends on your blank. I know like the photo slates, like the stone looking slates, those take like between 4 to like 8 minutes. It really just depends on which one you got. But most of the time, 9 times out of 10, the manufacturer, the person that you purchased the blank from, will tell you the time and temp to use. So if you buy a shirt, a 100% polyester shirt, the universal time is 1 minute 400 degrees. I just know that, okay? But if I bought like a photo slate, or I bought playing cards, or I bought a glitter tumbler or something like that, I'm gonna check with whoever sold it to me. They'll tell you the time and temp that you should use and which method you should use. So if you're using a mug press, they'll give you mug press, time and temp, convection oven, time and temp. Always check with the seller on the time and temp when it comes to your blank. Trust me, they will tell you. Okay. And the last question that I always get, where do you get your blanks? Where'd you get your blanks from? I have tried so many Etsy shops. Okay, so I definitely get a lot of blanks from Etsy. If I'm looking for like the bigger companies, they always have like a lot of the same thing. They have your tumblers and their mugs and the t-shirts and the hats and things like that. But if I'm looking for something that's a little bit more unique, like the playing cards or the photo slates or the keychains or the ornaments, well, the big companies have the ornaments too around Christmas time. But if I'm looking for something that's a little bit more unique, I'll probably go to Etsy first, just to see if I can find something that's different, a different kind of blank. That's what I go to Etsy for. If I'm trying to buy like in bulk, I will go to Heat Transfer Warehouse. I'll go to Condi. I will go to, if it's shirts, Jiffy Shirts has Gildan polyester 100%. They're Gildan Performance and they're 100% polyester shirts. I like those and I get them in bulk. Jiffy is quick. I haven't purchased from them in a while, but the last time I purchased from them, shipping was like 2 days, like Amazon, okay? I do get blanks off of Amazon. Now, Amazon is a hit or a miss, especially when it comes to the tumblers. Now, when it comes to some of the other blanks, like I've gotten oven mitts and mugs and things like that from Amazon, I never had a problem. But I think the last batch of tumblers I got weren't all that good. Like when they first sublimated, they looked good. But then after like a day or two, it was like it looked faded, like the ink was disappearing or something. So tumblers on Amazon is definitely hit or miss, and they're also expensive. I just would not buy tumblers off of Amazon. Honestly, if I were you, I mean, if you need them quick, like it's like a dire situation, like life or death, and you need tumblers like tomorrow, then you could probably go to Amazon, but just know you're going to be paying way more than you normally would. But I definitely wouldn't suggest getting tumblers on Amazon. It's too risky. But yeah, Heat Transfer Warehouse, Condi, Etsy, and if you feel like going the Alibaba route, always Alibaba has really good blanks as well. It's just, I don't know if you feel like dealing with it, or, you know, it's really up to you. It's your preference. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I'm going to go through my list. If I find anything else, I'll make sure I link it down below. All of those websites will be linked down below. Well, except for like Amazon and the Etsy shops. I purchased from so many Etsy shops. I would just go into the Etsy. I'm not about to list every Etsy shop I've ever purchased from. That would be too long. I just go to Etsy if I'm looking for, like, I'll type in sublimation blanks and I'll just kind of go through the pages and scan until I see something that that's different, that I've never seen before, that's unique, or it's not as popular, and I'll grab that. But yeah, you can just type in sublimation blanks and you'll get so many things that pop up. Etsy, Amazon, Alibaba, Condi, I'll link the Condi website down below. I will link the Heat Transfer Warehouse. Oh, and Great Blanks. Great Blanks. I will link their website down below. I get a lot of blanks from there as well. So that is pretty much it for how to get started. Now the actual process of sublimating, I have so many videos on my channel about sublimation and different blanks. I have tumblers and mugs and shirts and duffel bags, book bags, I mean just hats. I have all type of stuff on my channel. So if you're looking for a video that's specifically how do I sublimate a t-shirt, just scroll through my channel. You'll find a few of them on there. I just wanted to kind of talk about the supplies, the tools, and where to get your blanks from specifically, so you can write all this information down and you can go ahead and get started. But that is all I have for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, definitely drop them down below and I will try to get those answered for you guys. But thank you so much for watching. Bye.